Good evening, everyone. It's good to see you all here. Thank you for connecting. So here we are at day 4 of the Tour Music Fest Berklee Remote Masterclass Series. Thank you all. Nadia, thank you for everything, for setting this up, for being our hostess. We've got an incredible series of presentations for you today. And we've been building through all 4 of these sessions to give you a lot of information. We started off with songwriting techniques and arranging for songwriting with Sarah Brindell. And we then went on to vocal technique with Michael Sean Harris. And we did stage performance yesterday, as well as just wellness. And today we have a very special guest. But before we get into today's presentation, Nadia, do you want to make an announcement about the translation? Do you want to talk about the translation?
There's some comments in the chat that say they can't hear you, Nadia. I can't.
Yeah, so we'll announcement now. Nadia, can you make that announcement in the English as well? Yeah, I think making it here in the English. Yeah, cool. All right, looking good. Thank you. Cool. All right, so joining us today, we have 2 incredible presenters, our professor in our songwriting department, as well as our chair of professional music. And we're going to take your performance and your songs, and we're going to bring them into the business and production side of the industry. So this is really important information. Again, all of these sessions are being recorded. We are going to put them up on YouTube, both at Berklee and at Tour Music Fest. So you're going to be able to go back and look at these. There's a lot of great information here, and you'll need to go back and take a look and take notes on everything that you're hearing. And again, if you're having trouble with translation, just make sure you click on the interpretation button. You can pick English or Italian, and you'll be able to hear our presenters as well as Nadia doing the translation. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on incredible artist. You were listening to her music if you joined the session earlier. You can get that online. Of course, it'd be great if you would go and buy it as well versus streaming it. It's always great to pay for the music that you're checking out. I'm one of those people. I love to buy CDs, you know. So, you know, I'm a big advocate for supporting artists, you know, instead of streaming music. You know, it's great to buy the records. But joining us today, we have, I think, associate professor, yes, of songwriting at Berklee, incredible artist, doing all kinds of things for Berklee and Berklee Online, as well as incredible career, writing, producing, touring, wealth of knowledge and expertise. Valerie Orth, thank you for joining us.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks, Jason and Nadia, for having me, and for everyone that's joining from all over the world. I think mostly Italy, which is exciting, where my ancestors are from.
Where's your family from in Italy?
Naples. My great grandparents. Yeah. So, yeah.
Cool. Have you been back to Naples to visit?
I haven't. I'm going to go, and if anybody here is in Naples, let me know.
Yeah.
Oh, he's in Naples.
So Angelique is from Naples. She can hook you up.
Oh,
In the
cool.
chat. I'm just watching the chat.
If I could just meet you there.
Yeah. Probably knows all
I'll
the
just
great
get some-
places to hang.
I love it. Say hello to my ancestors.
So Valerie, you've got 2 sessions for us today. Where are you going to start with us today?
I'm going to start with the business of a song, and the second session will be about how to produce a song.
Awesome.
So I'm going to share a slideshow. I feel like it might be the most clear I can present across worlds. See if this works. So will you?
Looks great.
If that, okay, cool. So you can see the slide, not anything else, correct?
Correct.
Great. So just to introduce myself again, I'm Valerie Orth, assistant professor in the songwriting department at Berklee. I teach DAW for songwriters. So in other words, music production and technology specifically for songwriters. Are there a lot of songwriters in the audience? Let me see if I can get a sense of who I'm talking to. Who are there? If you want to put in the chat, if you're a songwriter, awesome. So I teach production and technology to songwriters, and I teach directed studies at Berklee, which is like private instruction on songwriting. So it's a really awesome opportunity. If you do come to Berklee and decide to be a songwriting major, you get to have one-on-one with the professors every week and build your portfolio of songs. This is one of my favorite things to teach, actually. I have been an independent artist since 2006. So singer-songwriter, guitar, music producer. And the reason why I'm telling you my resume here is because this business that we're about to talk about, I really learned on my own. And I have to say I learned it the hard way, which was just doing it, trial and error. All I can say is now that I'm teaching at Berklee, I wish I went to Berklee. Then I wouldn't, maybe it would have taken, you know, a third of the time it took me to understand this stuff. So I'm really happy to be sharing some of my knowledge with you today. I released over the past 15 years, I've released 5 albums, ton of singles, all independently. I've collaborated with other producers and engineers, musicians, songwriters, made music videos. I've toured, like Jason mentioned, around the US with my band, solo, booking, managing my own tours. I've top-lined, I've produced tracks for music houses and publishing companies like Warner Chappell. So like I mentioned, we're going to just be going over, in general, the business of a song. So what you need to know to do to get your music heard by those you want to hear it. I know how to use this. All right. So this is kind of the overview of what we'll be doing today. That's me. That's a picture. I'm looking over because I have a second monitor here. I was like, well, that show I was definitely heard. So that was me in New York City. I can't remember, the Mercury Lounge, I think, with my band. So just the way I'm going to lay this out is that these just kind of 4 important categories. So protecting your own music. So understanding your rights, owning your songs. Direct, so setting a SMART goal, like a specific goal, so you know which direction to go in and you can go in that direction efficiently and successfully. Identify, so understanding who you are as a business, who you are as a person, yes, but you will become a business essentially. Also, what you're capable of learning and doing. And on the artist side, identifying your brand. The last thing is actually implementing it. So now that you have your specific goal, you know who you are, you know what your music represents, how to release those songs and reach your goal. So the first thing, protecting your songs. I'm going to just talk about this very generally because it does vary. Some details legally varies in different countries. So I only know about the US side of things. So the things that help us are split sheets. So knowing who owns what of a song and being able to go into a song co-writing session or co-producing or into a studio and say, before anything gets messy, this is who owns what and how much. Copywriting your song, your lyrics, your melody. There's performance rights organizations in the US. The main ones are ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC. In Italy, it's SIAE. So you have to sign up with, affiliate yourself with the PRO and register your songs with them. You might, publishing is a whole other thing. To say it briefly, I mean, it's important to me, you might want to sign up with someone to admin your publishing. You might want to create, in the US, it's an LLC or limited liability corporation. I'm going to give Nadia like a couple seconds just to clarify what's the connections that she's been able to provide in Italy. Cool, awesome, thank you for that. So once you've got that all sorted out, you know what you own, you are ready to take in all the money, all your royalties, because you're set up for it. You got to figure out what your goals are. That's really the first thing to do before you kind of try to release anything, because you want to know what you're going after. So there's kind of a business acronym that's called SMART goal, setting your SMART goal. Nadia has been able to find some Italian words that are spelled, it spells out SMART as well. So you got to be specific about your goals. The goals need to be measurable. So there's a kind of even a number is kind of the best way to see if you have been able to reach them. Achievable. So is this goal that I have actually possible? Because you can look on YouTube all day long and be like, I want to be Harry Styles. I want to be touring with Lady Gaga, or whatever. Like, that's cool. That's what you want. And that's a great dream to have. And for a goal that you can actually achieve in the near future with the resources that you have, you got to make sure it's achievable. So, and realistic, that kind of overlaps with it being realistic, and timely, to set yourself a kind of end date for it. So for example, in 6 months, I want to have 50,000 streams for this song on Spotify. So the reason why that's a good one is because 6 months, it's timely. 50,000 streams is a measurable, achievable and realistic. So if you said 1 million streams for the song and you have 100 monthly listeners on, and I'm not down, and I think probably have how many I have, but 100 listeners on Spotify, trying to go for 1 million streams on a song is not realistic and therefore not achievable. So maybe 50,000, maybe you have a couple hundred followers on Spotify, and you can, in 6 months, you can attain that goal. Because you have those specifics, you know what to do next. So, okay, I got to get on playlists. I know that Spotify, they favor artists that release music consistently and regularly. So this means I need to put out a new song, a single, every 4 to 6 weeks. That's just an example. Another example, I want to do a 3-week tour in Italy and Spain next summer. So then you can start figuring out the number of shows you're going to be doing, who's playing with me. Do I need a tour manager? What gear do I need? Do I need to buy a car or a bus, or, rent a bus? Another, tell me if I'm going too fast. I'm trying to watch you at the same time.
No, you're good. You're doing solid.
Okay. Maybe another example would be, I want to sync a song. I want to license one of my songs to a TV show or a film in the next 6 months. So then I know, okay, I have to research music supervisors. I have to understand what kind of song, like I have to research shows, like what are they looking for right now? Does this make sense that my song would do it? So the more specific you can be with your goals, the more efficient you're going to be with the steps that you take to reach those goals. So smart goal, make your smart goals. Who am I? That's a big question. It's a big question. So I do think it's important. You're going to change, of course, as your music's going to change. You're going to grow at no matter how old you are. You're going to be constantly growing, especially working on music, especially as an artist. It is important to understand your own what you want to do. So like on the business side, if you love photography or you love making music videos or something, you might want to dive deeper into that. So on the business side, you want to know kind of what limitations you have, what you need to learn, what kind of you might need to build a team to help you. And even if you're not on a label, you can get a support team of industry professionals, people, mentors, the support, knowing the support that you need. And then on the artist side, your brand identity is very important. So what colors are you using? I mean, if you can see in this, interesting slideshow here, I have, purple and yellow and black, and my colors for my last album, I think I have a slide of it, is black and white and purple. So then when I was doing my website at the time, it was, those colors. So visuals are very important. Whatever colors I wore for when I was gigging, those related to the album I was doing. So for the music side, when your brand identity, before you even start releasing stuff, you want to know where you fit in the industry, where you fit in the music right now. So what playlists do your songs fit on? Especially if your goal is to get on a bunch of playlists so you can get a bunch of streams. What other artists do you sound like? Maybe you could pitch, if you're trying to get on a label, you pitch the label that those artists are on. Or maybe if you're going on tour, what artists would make sense to go on tour with? Another thing just about the visuals is, and it could be for anything. When we talk about production later, this is important too. But what's like a mood board for your music or a song? I don't know if there's a direct translation for that. But what feeling are you giving out with your music? What's your goal with your music? So really, really digging in to understand that. And that you're not going to, figure that out in one day or one release, but it is important to try at least to be specific in those categories. So what you can achieve as a business, and what you're representing as an artist, and visually, musically, and statement wise, if you're trying to say a statement. Should I stop for questions?
Yeah, let's check the chat and see what questions there are. Anybody have questions so far for Valerie? You could put in the chat, even if it's on Italiano, we can translate that.
I see something.
What do you got?
All you're saying is very interesting. I'm many steps behind this point, trying to acquire experience, perform in bars or a club, and I can't go further than this. Yeah. I am saying a lot. What I think that's a great statement, Eleanor, that you're saying. You have to start somewhere. So performing in bars and a club is a really specific goal to have. So when you have so I would go through the same exact steps. If we go back to the smart goal, and I would say, okay, so specific, I want to perform 3 gigs in the next 3 months or something like that, at these bars. That way, that is achievable. Make sure the bars are, close by, or you have a car. There's logistics that you don't think about until you go to the gig, or you try to go to the gig and you're like, oh wait, I don't have the right cable for my guitar, whatever it is. Like, you can really, as long as you have a goal, you can go backwards from there. So your larger goal is to acquire experience performing, and performing in a bar is one of the best places to get experience. So having, okay, I want to perform in that bar in the next 3 months. Then to contact the venue owner or the booker, figure out how you get a gig, figure out what you need to do the gig. Does that help at all, Eleanor? I know it's a lot.
I like the idea of setting up just that small goal of like, I love this band, I love this venue that they're playing at, and I want to do that. So what is it going to take to get into that space? Well, you need to have something to share with your audience. You need to have the band to do it. And oftentimes, the club is going to want to know that you can bring in an audience, right? So then you've got to figure out how you can get an audience even to come to an event. So Valerie, I'm guessing maybe early on, you were probably playing some open mics or doing a lot smaller things as you were kind of building up those steps, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Open mics, I would, when I was just starting as a songwriter, and I loved performing because I performed long before I wrote any songs. So I performed from like age 5 in musical theater. When I started writing songs, I wasn't, maybe in my early 20s. The only way I could try out how the songs would work to an audience would go to an open mic, because I didn't have any of my own following. So I would try it out. I would be practicing how to perform it, how to get the audience's attention, what kind of response I got from the audience. And open mics are the most nerve-wracking gigs there are. You got like 3 seconds to go up there and set up. You better, and you got to have something.
And the people didn't necessarily come there to hear you, so you've got to convince them.
Yeah.
Enrico has an interesting question. There are a couple of other questions here too, but he's sort of he's hitting that middle sort of age stride, and is he too old to learn this stuff? Or what do you say to somebody who's been out there maybe doing other things but has a desire to get their music out to an audience? Is it too old to start? Is there an age?
No, I mean, I say that like kind of like, because I've heard that question so many times, and me starting in my early, as a songwriter in my early 20s, I was always told I was too old.
Yeah.
I was like, it's a horrible ageist way to look at things. And it's our culture, or at least the US, and I imagine Italy too. People do look at like that on the outside. But if you want to do something and you are determined to, I don't think it matters what age you are. I hear these stories all the time. Some 95-year-old wrote a hit song. I mean, it happens all the time. You just have to do it. You have to, it really goes back to those goals, making sure, I'm just going to keep this.
Yeah, I think that's the message for today, right?
Right, that it's specific, realistic, achievable. So you don't burn out. First of all, like, well, why haven't I gotten on tour with Taylor Swift yet? I don't understand. It's like but you haven't played an open mic yet.
Yeah. Sophia has an interesting question that kind of might go along to your second presentation, but how do you know when a song is finished?
Yeah, that's definitely the second one. Some people, somebody asked this last time I was here. I would say that it's up to you. So it depends what you're talking about. So when I was performing in open mics, I would write a song like the day before and go play it. And then I would go and change the words based on like what kind of feedback or how it felt playing live. And then, so it wasn't finished just because I finished writing it. I tried it out in audiences. And then fast forward to when I was gigging and touring with a whole band, I had songs, they just weren't recorded yet, but we were trying stuff out, what different people were playing different parts. And then we knew what we were doing in the recording studio because we had practiced, we had tried all these different ways of doing it live on tour.
Got it. And it just evolved.
Yeah. So you don't really know. And one thing, or you take like Bob Dylan, he supposedly sings different lyrics like every time he sings songs live. So it's up to you. When I do talk, and hopefully you can stay on for the production part of this, there is a time where and actually next.
Yeah, let's go next.
Talk about, your release plan.
There you go.
Have to
because this might actually introduce, answer a couple of these other questions that people are throwing on here about where to release it and how to release it.
Great. Okay, awesome. Your release plan. But first, so we can't move forward until the production and the artwork. So the song's got to be done in terms of the recording aspect of it. Like the production has to be done. The song has to be mastered. Yes, it has to be mastered. The artwork must be done. So this is actually the artwork of my album that you were listening to earlier. It took, I can't tell you how long it took for this picture. Yes, it happened on one day, but between the photo, getting the location, getting the outfit, the makeup people together, the hair people, everything. I mean, this was like a 2-month process. And then, especially when you don't have a lot of resources. I didn't have a lot of money, and most independent artists don't. So, and then I took another 2 months for the graphic designer to come up with this. So this process is really long. It's really important that you have, before you're like, okay, I'm going to release this on Spotify. Here's my due date, and let me book my, my release party at this big important venue. And then you come to find out that was, you're going to do it September 15th and September 12th, you still don't have the artwork. So therefore you haven't even released the song yet. So it's really important. Honestly, I wouldn't make a release date until the song is at least mastered and the artwork is well on your way. So someone wrote slay. I love that. So here's an example timeline for, this is if you want to release a single. So are there many people here that are working on releasing a single? You could just put that in the chat. So say your release date is November 4th. Awesome. This coming November 4th. At least 1 month in advance, you're signing up for your distribution. That means that you need to have that mastered single with the artwork done 1 month in advance for distribution. I don't know how to, maybe my tone shows you how serious this is and how I have had many experiences where it just didn't come to be. So 1 month in advance is the least amount of time that you need to sign up for your distribution. Distribution examples, or distributor examples for independent artists are like CD Baby, TuneCore, DistroKid. Those are kind of popular ones right now. That takes, once you get that, once you sign up for that distribution, it takes 2 weeks to even get on the platforms. So some platforms to distribute on are, for digital streaming, are Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon. Can't think of anything else right now. you're creating this is an example. So creating a Spotify pre-save, that's a whole thing. But you do that ahead of time. What's that? 3 weeks ahead of time. You make sure that you have accounts on all of these platforms, Spotify, Apple, Amazon. You have to set up artist accounts. It's like more paper. You're like, I just want to write some songs, man. And it's just is like, and now I'm sitting here. I mean, once you finish those songs, it's like, that's why you should start as early as you can. It's like 80% of your time is going to be spent on the business. It's crucial that you have that covered though, or else you're just going to be playing in your living room for your mom. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but if you want to, if your goal is to get out there and be playing live, this is the way to do it. Do it ahead of time. Yeah. So your streaming platforms in order to have the profiles, you want to make sure that they're uniform across the board, like your profiles, either the same picture or the same colors, the same concept with your album or your single artwork. So consistent, professional, relevant. And then this smart link, so you can pitch your music to Spotify if you're trying to get on playlists. You can do that. That says 2.5 weeks ahead of time. You can do that up to a month ahead of time if your artwork is already on distribution, if you start this process earlier. Smart links are really helpful so people can find you really easily. A smart link is like having, I'll show you, I have an example, I think. I copied mine. So this is Linktree. So it'll have a picture of you. This was my marketing photo at the time. And I have the different ways that people can connect with me, connect with my music, all the links where they can buy my music. I have a Patreon thing going on. So that has to be set up for every single. Oh wait. And share your music, then you post it. Then the music's released. And then you have to promote it. So it's like, it's a lot of work, but I'm telling you, once you do it, you're going to want to do it again because you're going to be writing more songs and you're going to release it. And you're going to start having fun while you're doing all this business because you'll have the hang of it. You'll have all your rights in order. You'll be rolling in the royalties. So if you do it right, and you can really set yourself up for success and to have control over your music. And have fun with it. Enjoy it.
Valerie, do you use some sort of like a Google Doc or some sort of task management tool to write all this out and kind of keep a to-do list? Is that how you figure this out? How do you do this?
Yeah, that's a great question. Google Drive is great for documents. Dropbox is I use for audio stuff. So it's just like when you're producing, you need to have backups of everything in the order in which you're doing stuff. When you're doing the business side of things, you have to have spreadsheets in Google Drive. So yeah, I have spreadsheets. It depends. I mean, I've done this over so long amount of time that the different softwares have changed. So like at one point, I think there is like FileMaker Pro, you have to have your contact list together. Yeah, you want to have your contacts and your Rolodex. And then, yeah, your to-do list and who can help you. I mean, when I was working with more of a team, there was a column that's like, who's responsible for this? Like, who's going to get this done? So, and everything from if you're performing at a bar, I mean, 3 weeks ahead of time, you're probably going to want to make the posters and then post. Like, if it's a local gig, I think it's probably still worth putting up a poster in the coffee shop, definitely having a poster at the bar up, and then of course, all over social media digitally. Wow. Oh, here's a question. Oh,
yeah, that's a great question from Gilberto.
Yeah, considering that you're planning to release an album with 6 or 7 tracks, how many singles would you release before the album? This is a great question. So how many singles would you release before the album among those tracks? So it depends on what your goal is. So like I said before, if you're trying to get bunch of streams on Spotify, rather than an album, it's better to release singles, one single every 4 to 6 weeks. You can have so if that was the case, then I would release every single one of them as a single. And then the album itself, if you're printing it like on vinyl or maybe CDs, if you have fans like Jason, you're still buying them, then you can have a celebration once they're all out. You can also have, it's cool if you do that, because then if you have a patron group, like, so your closest fans, basically, your most hardcore fans, they can pay ahead of time to get, like, if they're donating, if you're doing a Kickstarter or something like that, they can get the album ahead of time while you're releasing them single by single on Spotify. It's actually a good strategy. So it really depends on what your goal is, what your SMART goal is.
There's a question from Aurelio here that's interesting, and in this, I'm going to make a comment about this that I'd like you to reply to, which is he's had his music up on Spotify and he's hit a ceiling on the number of people listening. And this is for all of our audience here to be aware of. You know, with the music that my band has recently released, we've just basically released it as a music video.
Cool.
Are people listening to music, or are they watching music? and how does that impact, like, the sort of response that you're getting from what you're sharing? Because again, you know, I'm kind of old school. I like listening to stuff, but I understand that the audience that I might be wanting to connect with likes to watch music.
That's such a great question. It depends who your audience is. So the slide I had that was, you know, who am I? Also, who is your audience? I should add that in this presentation. Who is your audience? Definitely need to identify your audience. So some folks, you might have a older audience that's like, it's the same goes where you're posting your stuff. Where are you most active? Right. If you were with an older audience, you might be super active on Facebook. If you are have, you know, teenagers, you might be on Snapchat, or TikTok, of course. Everybody got to be on it. So it's the same thing with where you're. What was the question? The original question was Spotify. How to, right? Yeah,
he's sort of hit the ceiling with listenership on Spotify. He's trying to figure out how to augment that, how to grow his audience.
Yeah. So again, if you find that your audience is watching, then you're going to be spending more time on YouTube and and if you don't like I'm not a huge fan of making music videos. It's taken me so long to do it. So I just do lyric videos now, but that's if I want followers on YouTube, if I know that my audience is watching on YouTube. Building an audience on Spotify is playlists, and do not pay a third party to get plays on playlists. Like there's Playlist Push, and I forget what the other one is called. It's a scam. Like it's not real. They're not real fans. So you're trying to get, in whatever platform you are on, if you're trying to get numbers, you're trying to get real fans, and paying bots they're not real fans. They're not going to show up for your show or buy your music. Yeah. That answered your question. It is really research on your side.
Can I ask you a question about your music? Have you been surprised of where your listeners are from? Have all your listeners primarily been, say, like in the US market, the North American market, or did you find that you're connecting with audiences in other parts of the world?
That's a good question. I mean, one thing I have to say I slacked on a little bit was the statistics, reading the statistics after, doing a lot of release. I'll talk about that in a second. But it is where I play. I was much more of a live player than also because I started before social media. So a lot of like where I played was where I had fans, was where people were listening from. Some artists are releasing most of their stuff and it's just digital. They're just doing Zoom show or you know, any kind of digital shows and things like that, or just YouTube and TikTok. And I was like gigging all over. That was how I got my fans. So
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
person kind of thing. But what I was saying before is that like by the end of the album release kind of cycle, it's like I was exhausted. So one thing I'd say is just to really pace yourself, like with those SMART goals, like have your SMART goal and just know the reason why you want it realistic and attainable is because you don't want to burn out. This is like, you know, as an artist, is music. This is my music is my life, you know, and my students are now too. But you know, it's like you don't want to lose that.
Right. Well, I'm looking at the clock here, and I know that you've got a few more things to share. Do you want to kind of go forward with your presentation before we break?
That was actually, this is the Be Heard Again. This is my these are my, they're not my real nieces, but I've claimed them as mine because they're so freaking cute. And I gave them these instruments. So yeah, the Be Heard Again is to make your career sustainable for yourself. That's kind of the point, that you're going to be doing this kind of over and over again, and just know that from the beginning. That I think that was it for this Q&A. Yeah, those are my websites. This
Cool.
is
yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, please follow Valerie on social media here, and then let's dig into some of your questions. What do you think about focusing on great micro content on socials than running ads? So this is, I guess, like doing series of videos. There's lots of people that post the video every day, the daily video, and it's sort of like building an audience that way versus you know, kind of like the bigger project release things. You know, do you have an approach to how you use social media?
yeah. Is this, Jason, am I correct in saying that Toki is going to be talking about building an audience?
He's going to dig into this a bit as well. Yeah, for the fan base. Yeah.
So he's going to be more detailed on this. I think that's a great way to do it. So again, going back to the sustainability portion, make sure when you set your goal at the beginning, you're like, okay, I'm gonna put one 15-second TikTok every day next month. Just like make sure that you can actually do that. And then do it, and then it will build, you will build fans after a while, but it is consistency. Social media is all about consistency, and Spotify is one of the same things. If you want to get Spotify followers, so I keep saying, it's just like you got to.
Valerie, did we lose you? I think we might have lost you. Hold on one second.
Oh,
there you are.
okay, I just put my slide. Mike, it says my internet's unstable.
Yeah, it's Thursday. Cool. Let's see. We've got another question in here from Roberto. Is it customary to pay a producer to have you produce a song with both lyrics and arrangements if you are recommended for a famous and popular festival? Okay. Maybe, yeah, that's an interesting question. I want to ask.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what the question is from
So,
Roberto.
I'm not sure I totally, I'm not sure I totally understand the situation. Is the producer promoting you for the festival and that's why you want to pay them? Or let me see if I can find the question in the chat.
Yeah, it's a couple up there. It's you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 back, 4 or 5 back. It's a big one. Roberto.
It's in Italian.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's almost like have you produced a song, both lyrics and arrangements, if you're recommended for a famous and popular festival? So Roberto, can you clarify your question for us? And then what do you think about the quality over the quantity concept? What's better for you? That's a question from Gabrielle. Valerie, I think you froze. Okay. She might have frozen. Oh, there she is. Okay. She's
Okay,
back.
I missed some of it because I think I was on the Italian
Yep.
side.
So, well, we're getting a clarification from Roberto. Gabrielle
Okay,
asked, what do you think about quality over quantity? Is it better to have more stuff out or better stuff out?
I prefer quality, but I am old.
Quality wins.
I am old, and other people will say, other people will definitely say quantity. Like I was just saying that micro content is helpful. So I have a friend, for example, who's a filmmaker. He's a brilliant filmmaker in London, and he puts out a film every 5 years. Every 5 years, and he gets awards, and there's these gorgeous films. And then he has friends. He was telling me his friends are filmmakers that they put out something every 6 months, like a short film or something. It's just a different way of doing it. It depends what do you need to survive? Like, what do you need to sustain yourself? I would really focus. This chaos in social media is like, it will burn you out. It can like make your head spin. You just need to figure out what is going to work for you, who you are, what is sustainable for you, what you love to do, why you're doing art. And if it is for the money, then you have to figure out what is the path you need to get that money. If it's for your, soul or, whatever, what is it going to be to take to make sure that you can express the best way you can? Not to say that those are two opposite directions, but, for example.
Yeah, no, this is, that's a great approach. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm an avid listener of entire projects. I like, out here, I have a very nice listening room, nice speakers. And I love getting and listening to an entire album. I love going and seeing a local band and checking out their whole show. It is very interesting because we are inundated with so much content all the time that you really don't have time to appreciate the great work that people do. To that point, Gilberto's got a great question here for you, Valerie, which is when you're not out on tour or releasing new music, how do you stay in contact with your audience during those periods of time in between when you're touring or when you've got projects that you're releasing?
So I have a newsletter. That's my favorite way to be in touch with my best fans. And I've been collecting emails for since 2007. So I just make sure I stay in touch with them. I'll be perfectly transparent that I was hired at Berklee a year ago, and I have thrown all of my focus into my students and teaching. So taking a small break from gigging and being on social media, and well, I am writing, but it's really, I'm not producing yet. I'm not releasing anything yet, I should say. But that was my decision. I totally forgot what the question was in that.
Well, that's what it is. Like in between, when you're out touring or doing, what do you do?
Yes.
How do you stay in contact? You've got to, because if you go completely silent, your audience will kind of drift away, right?
They will. Newsletters. So there's different things. I think it's helpful to write to them or post about what you're working on. If you're not touring, you might be writing a song, or you might be collaborating with somebody. You might be taking a class. Let me show you what I learned in this online course I took. And I mean, there's always, if you're an artist and you're practicing your music, you're practicing your art, there's always something that you're doing once a week, or, at the least, I would say once every 2 weeks, there's something to share with your audience. So when you're saying not musically active, I mean, I bet there's something like I used to post photos of me. I would do object writing in the morning, which is a lyric writing practice. I would post pictures of me writing, or how, just connecting with the audience in some way, whatever you're doing, even if it's not touring or something big and exciting you're opening for Lady Gaga.
So Roberto gave us a clarification. I'm going to read this to you.
And I think this is the last question, or is
yeah, and then we'll take a break.
Okay.
So what he was sharing was, if you're
Jason, can you hear us?
Yeah, I
can't
can.
do that.
You can't hear me?
No.
You cannot hear me. Valerie, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can very quietly.
Really? Okay. Let's check my microphone and see, it looks like it's pretty good. Yeah, it's okay.
Can you hear me, Jason?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
I can
Can
hear
you
you.
hear Nadia?
No,
Okay, I can hear Nadia. Okay. Oh, there's all these questions in Q&A. Oh,
I've been going over to the Q&A and trying to grab things as well.
I see. Okay.
Some of them are repeated.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe I can conclude because if I can just kind of wrap up, because I'm just looking at the questions quickly. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I just looking at, there's a lot of like specific, or not a lot, I don't know, there's some specific questions that I think it's really helpful to know business well. And it's not something that unfortunately, I can't just share in 45 minutes.
Right.
I strongly encourage you to take a course on this. Like, I know Berklee offers online courses. If you're applying to Berklee and you get in, I would definitely take the music business courses with in the songwriting department. We have this, if you're a major, you join this intro to songwriting, which half of that is music, is a business. So it's such an enormous topic, and I'm so grateful to have, the 45 minutes to talk to you about it. And it's just the tip of a very large iceberg.
This is a great point. And let's take a break, because what are we going to do next, Valerie?
The production of a song.
Okay, so we're going to go through the production process of a song, which may answer some of the questions that I've been seeing in the comments. And why don't we step away for about 10 minutes?
Yeah.
We'll come back at 5 after the hour. I'm going to play some more of Valerie's awesome music.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, stay connected. We'll be back in 10 minutes. 10 minuto. Cool. All right. All right. Hey, Valerie, welcome back.
Thank you.
Cool. So yeah, that first part of the session was a lot of information there. Again, we are recording the session and we're going to put it up online so you can go back through and take a listen to what you've shared, Valerie, and then start doing your research to put together your smart plan and begin to build your audience and release your music. So you want to jump into this next part?
Sure. I wasn't sure if we were waiting for Nadia to make sure she.
I think she's here and she's just got her camera off and
I see. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I can.
Yeah, why don't you have another presentation? Nadia, are you here with us? Yes.
Make sure.
Cool. Thank you. All right.
Great. Okay. One thing I realized we didn't test was the sound.
Just make sure when you share your screen, you check that sound button and everything should work groovy.
Great. I did do that.
All right.
So set up here. So hi again, everyone. I'm hoping some of the same folks are back. It was a great session. So I guess I don't know if I should. Well, I'll just say that though I'm a professor at Berklee, I've been an independent artist for like a long time. Whenever I was trying to do the math since 2006, and it wasn't until I started producing my own songs that I felt truly independent. So today I'm going to talk about we'll talk about production for songwriters. So why produce, why you should produce your own music, how to get started, how to make your production support the meaning of the song, and arrangement in production. So maybe I'm just going to try to also keep an eye on the chat. If folks, are there producers here that just give a little wave if you're a producer? If you have a home studio, if you're a songwriter producer, I'm a songwriter producer. It took me a while to actually call myself a producer, but I realized I've been producing for a very long time as well. So what is a DAW, digital audio workstation? So I have a little, so Jason, can you see my slides, everything?
Everything looks great.
Okay.
Yeah, crystal clear.
Great. Okay, so DAW is digital audio workstation. Super important to know, but although I just realized it is in English, so I'm not sure if it's called, they use the same acronym. Is that true, Nadia, in Italy? Maybe DAWs. Sure, translating. Yeah. The same. Awesome. Okay, great. And if you come to Berklee, you will be using that, especially if you're taking my class. I teach DAW for songwriters. So all producers and engineers have their favorite DAW. You ask 10 producers what the best DAW is, and they'll have 10 different answers. So for example, people will say FL Studios, like Fruity Loops is great for electronic production, but I've heard it's about to be the standard DAW in professional studios of all sorts. I started out in Pro Tools. I use Ableton Live to produce and to perform live. I use Logic to write and record vocals. I use Soundtrap to teach production to new producers and remotely, because we can actually work very easily remotely together, but it's a very basic platform. So I'm sure that those producers have recognized these labels here. So these are the DAWs. And I'll share part of one of my songs that I used all 3 DAWs to produce it. So it's definitely, it's been really helpful for me to understand how to use all these DAWs. And then when I got hired at Berklee as a professor, I now teach them. So it's great to have that kind of multilingual when it comes to DAWs. So why should you produce your own songs? It is of crucial importance that you learn to produce, that you can at least produce demos of your songs if you want to have success in the industry. So why? One, defining your vision. So be you. Be who you are. If you heard my last presentation, you do want to figure out who you are first, and then you can be you, and you have a vision and a sound. So you're in control of the vision of your song, what you want the song to sound like, what do you want your sound to be, how do you want to be portrayed as an artist and a songwriter. So you will have all that control as a producer. Do not let other people tell you who you are. You get to define yourself. You'll evolve and change, and your music will too, right along with you. And money. So save money. Being a musician and a songwriter costs a lot of money. Produce your own music, you can save like thousands of dollars that you would spend on producers. You can spend that money on hard drives instead, and lots of guitars or other instruments. Make money when you release your songs, if you also produce them. I mentioned it in the business of a song. You'll collect royalties as a songwriter and the producer of the master. So you can actually make more money. You're giving away less money, I should say, when you're producer, when you own more of the master. So where do I start? A lot of songwriters think they can't produce their own songs, that a professional producer will always do it better. And that's just not true. You can literally produce a song on your phone. So DAWs like GarageBand and Logic are super easy to use. They're made for songwriters and musicians to play and to have fun with. Like, remember, we used to play music. So this is like you can play on the DAW, you can play on the computer. So you just have to learn how to use them. And that might, take a course, or, maybe you're, want to be self-taught, it's fine. So some also get intimidated by the thought of using technology to make music. So you've got this great song, you've got vocals, and you got an acoustic guitar, or you've got, your lyrics, and you've got a piano. So now what? So I'm going to share with you in this presentation one way you can start. Again, 10 producers, 10 different answers. This is one way you can start. So I just want you to take a sec. Does anyone recognize these characters? I was like obsessed with this movie, and I am not a child, but I'm connected to my inner child. That is how I'm an artist. So these are the emotion characters. So just think about the last recorded song you heard that made you feel something deeply. So just think about it. Think about a song, just something that made you feel anything. What emotion did it evoke in you, and why? So usually when you're listening to a song, you're just like, I'm just enjoying the song, or, it's making me feel warm and fuzzy, or it's making me laugh, or it's making me cry, or it's making me feel like somebody's with me in this, this thing that I'm going through. But really, if you really think about it, that is the point of the producer, the writer too, the writer and the producer, to come up with, how can we get that emotion to the listener? What is it? Like, is it the lyrics, the rhythm? Is it the singer, the bass line? Is it the drums? It might be a song that just like you want to dance to. Is it the sax solo that makes you feel sexy or whatever? And the saxes don't make me feel sexy, but maybe some of you makes you feel sexy. So just type in the comments if I see a couple coming through, what the song is and what emotions that song makes you feel, and specifically why. So a song I recorded makes me feel White Flag by Dido. So what was it in that song? I don't remember that song, but think about, I mean, if you can type in, we'll go. I won't spend too much time on this, but nobody yet so far. But yeah, feel free to share as you're thinking, like, what is it, or when you're listening, just the next songs you're listening to. We'll listen to a couple in this presentation too. What is it that's making you feel that emotion? I'll just give it like 30 seconds. You can hear some responses. Muse's supremacy. I felt a lot of energy and power. So what is it that you think, Daniela, that supremacy, what besides the title, what about the song gave you energy and power? And Fabio wrote, like what is it, the guitar in the distorted guitars are just like, yeah. Is it the Muse's voice? That guy's voice is amazing. So Fabio wrote Mustang Sally, sexy, true and deep, got the goosebumps. So I wonder about I love that song, Mustang Sally. Yeah, Daniela wrote, it's the music crescendo. I didn't even listen to the lyrics the first time. That happens to me all the time. If some song really gets me, I'll listen to it over and over again. And then I might not even really understand what they're saying. And I'll look up the lyrics and be like, oh, that's why it made me feel so empowered. It's actually all the music in it. Even that drum beat is supporting the empowerment feeling. Over the rainbow, somewhere over the rainbow, something else. I don't know. Okay, we'll keep going and just feel free to keep sharing. And this is why. Okay, prosody. So does anyone know what prosody is?
Well, people that were here in the earlier sessions know, because we dug into that.
Oh, good. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Was it Sarah's on lyric writing?
Sarah dug in a lot on prosody. Yeah.
Okay, so you guys know. So I'll give some examples. So a wise songwriter once told me, my songwriting teacher over the last 2 decades, and the previous chair of the songwriting department at Berklee, Bonnie Hayes, she once told me, a song is a 3.5-minute commercial for an emotion, for one emotion. So everything that you're doing in this, well, now the songs are like 2 minutes and 45 seconds for an average pop song at this point, but everything that you're doing in those 3 minutes has to direct the listener towards that emotion. So you've got some lyrics, you've got the music, and then you've got meaning the melody, and then you've got the production too. How is the entire song supporting this direction of going in that emotion? So prosody is when the music aligns with the meaning of the song. Some examples of prosody, just a couple of seconds each here. To see why would this song by Radiohead, one of their hit songs, how does this relate to prosody? And I have the lyrics in English here. Could anyone guess? So he's saying, don't leave me high. I think people are still responding to other emotions. So he's saying, don't leave me high. And the highest note of the entire song and of the chorus, and it's held out, is a high note, literally. So it's like a direct prosody reference, exactly. So Radiohead's using high and dry, the melody of high. So this one I would love for you all to answer. So there's a song, you might not know, it's an artist called Tune-Yards, band called Tune-Yards. They have a song called Heart Attack in California. So Heart Attack. So listening to the production of the song, so the instruments, the tempo, it's not even the lyrics, yeah, I think she just says heart attack, but the music, the composition. So what does this have to do with heart attack? Oops, I always do that. Yes, okay. All right. Who can tell me, right in the chat, what examples of prosody were in that song? Let's see if there's another.
Yeah, the heartbeat, the kick, yep, that's cool.
Definitely. The clap. The rhythm, yep.
Yeah.
Taka, taka, taka. Yeah, exactly. So that clap, the rhythm, the combination of the drums, the bass, and that clap are this, it's like off-putting, like kind of, I don't know if Sarah talked about it, but like that unstable feeling, and you have, yes, you have the kick sounds like a heart for sure. They kind of nailed that, the production of the kick itself, but then also just the relationship with the rhythm of the drums, the kick, the clap, and the bass. So yeah, and it fits really good with the music. Accelerated heartbeat. Yeah, and then there's those chords they're really dissonant. So it's creating this entire feeling of instability, and like I kind of want to have a heart attack when I'm listening to it, as much as I love the song. Don't know how to use this when there's sound on here. to the next slide without, oh, here we go. Okay, this one you heard a couple of times in the, yeah, and it's funky, totally, too. I'm just looking at the chat also. So this was the song that I used 3 different DAWs to produce, and I produced with, actually several other producers are featured on this. And I used a lot of prosody when it came to both production and songwriting. So I'll just play a little bit of this. Another example. Okay. Anyone have any ideas for prosody? Thanks, Massimo. Grazie. Songwriting, in the songwriting portion of that, and in the production of it. I can tell you the answer too. So like the word, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. So someone said the robotic voice. I'm translating in my amazing Spanish. La voce robotica. Yeah. Analog synth, yes. So someone mentioned when you sing falling down, the notes are literally falling down. That's the melody of falling. The robotic sound of the vocal, we spent a lot of time getting with the robot that we wanted for that. So this song is about losing connection to being human, being so involved in social media, and so involved in technology. I mean, 2 things kind of we have to do, but in social media mostly, and just losing your connection. So the idea was to have this, like, you know, falling down in the rabbit hole of the internet, and just losing sight of humanity. And that's why the lead vocal is so robotic, because it's like she or I am, you know, disconnected with the humanity. Reminds me of the Black Mirror episode. I can barely watch that show. I'm just telling you, it frightens me because it's so real. Okay. So when you are producing your own song, when you're getting ready to figure out what is the production of your song, you know, before you even know who you're going to work with, what studio you're going to go in, if you're going to do it at home, all of this stuff, really figure out what the song's about. I mean, hopefully you figured that out when you finish the lyrics, but and then, so what's the song about? What's the core message of the song? What's the one emotion that I want listeners to feel, that you're going to want listeners to feel by the end of the song, or even at the beginning of the song? Someone wrote about Rabbit Hole, that at the very beginning, that those sounds kind of set the beat, set the feel, the motion, the song. How will I get across, or how will you get across as the writer and the producer, how you're going to get that across, that emotion in the song's production? So these are really big questions that you might not think about when you're first, when you're just like, well, I just want to record the song. I got my guitar, I got a drummer gun, got a bass player, like, let's go. But if you don't set it up, it's like in the last session, we were talking about your SMART goals. Like if you're not really specific about what you want to get across in your song, you're going to kind of be all over the place production wise. There are so many choices in production. It's endless. Even if you're just using stock sounds in Logic, it's endless. So it's important just to know where you're going, so it's easier to make decisions along the way. What chords you're going to use, what instruments. Did it go? No. Okay. Arrangement. Am I doing okay on time, Jason?
You're doing
Okay.
really, really well.
Cool. So this is an arrangement in production. So when are the instruments coming in and out, essentially? The first thing you're going to do, so once you figure out what is the emotion, what you're selling, what emotion are you selling with the song? Once you figure that out, then what's the tempo of the song? So say the emotion you're feeling, you want people to feel is happiness and joy. You probably are going to have an up-tempo song. It's really hard to have a slow song that you want people to like get up and dance to. So tempo of the song is super important. What instruments are going to be on the song? Who's going to play on it? So you might be producing or you might be programming your own drums. You might want a live drummer to get that. It is a different feel than programmed drums. Who's going to play on it? Their style of the obviously, if it's your band, that's lucky that you have people to go to right away. But if you're hiring somebody, like make sure you hire the person that's got that style that you want. You want to do like some soulful songs, like you're probably going to want like that soul bass player. Bass is everything when it comes to soul and R&B. So that kind of stuff. So who's going to play on? So that's important to, again, when you're figuring out before you even start recording. And then this is just, sorry, this slide is a little bit fuzzy, but hopefully you get the idea. So making your arrangement decisions of basically when instruments are coming in and out, how is the song going to build throughout? So I'm sure if you went to Sarah Brindell's presentation, I'm sure she talked about song sections and song form. So in production, your production has to support the form and the sectional contrast of the song. So you want to think about, again, before you go in the studio, how is the song going to build throughout? How will it take the listener on a journey musically, production-wise? So here's one example. This is kind of a typical pop song format for the feel of the motion of the song. So the verse starts kind of low, or the energy, I should say. The verse kind of starts low energy, just the beginning. There might be an intro that's just like one instrument, or maybe some drums, or just maybe the hook, the instrumental hook, or something like that. And the verse will be mellow, the first verse, energetically. The pre-chorus is building the tension up to the chorus. And that the first chorus is like that first peak that you feel, and the end of the chorus is going to come down or the transition, and then to a second verse. It'll go back down. You'll notice on this graph, it's a little bit higher than the first verse, a little bit more energy. Then the pre-chorus builds up again. Anyway, this is one way to do it. The pre-chorus builds up again to the tension, and then the chorus. And then the bridge might be a chance for you to really start building the tension and getting bigger and bigger, making the song and the story and the journey just bigger. And then the final chorus is, as you can see, it's kind of at the peak of how high the song gets. It's the chorus is just repeating and pumping up the audience. And then the end, there might be a fade out. There might be just one instrument, ending at a time. Okay. I'm seeing a question.
Yeah, there's a good question here for you,
Yeah,
Valerie. This is something that comes up with younger or songwriters who don't have as much experience writing. And Ilaria is asking, like, how does she focus on one emotion in a song? She's having trouble getting the thoughts together. And she's concerned that maybe she doesn't have anything to say in a song. So do you have any thoughts on how a person can focus? And there's got to be some exercises. Like you mentioned something about like object writing earlier. Is that like an exercise that somebody could, like Ilaria could do to help just work on one emotional way to communicate with one emotion? Or
I mean, object writing is it's like brought me back into songwriting so many times. I can tell you more about that. But to get to the point where you're just kind of focusing on one emotion, one thing to understand that helps me in songwriting and the type of songs that I write and pop style writing is you're really only just telling this one little story. And it might be a conversation between you and one other person. And you only have 3 minutes to tell this story. So you really not, so you want to focus in on the details and everything. What object writing is basing it on its sensory bound writing. So if it's just about this one conversation, you can have, and I've definitely written songs about one look somebody gave me, and I'm like, and that's a song. It's so tense, or it's so emotional, or it's so something. And then what object writing is you take an object like a glass of water, and you focus on all the senses that have to do with, or that bring up with that glass of water. So it'll be like what it tastes like, what it feels like, what it sounds like, what it
smells like.
Right. Why again? I think of the other senses: hear, touch, feel,
Smell.
no. At some point in that thing, I said 5. Sit and sight. So you focus on that. If you go to objectwriting.com, it links back to a Berklee professor, Pat Pattison, who kind of popularized this. I mean, hopefully, if you those who feel comfortable reading in English, the 2 books that I lived by for years and still do for songwriting are Pat Pattison's Writing Better Lyrics. I'm looking on my shelf right now. Writing Better Lyrics and Songwriting Without Boundaries, I think is the other one called. So Writing Better Lyrics is a great one to start with. And that gets you, there's so much to say. There really is, but it's finding different ways to say something based on your senses. You want to show, not tell in a song. Does that help, Ilaria?
I think that's a great response. And I just threw in the link for object writing. So please grab that link and learn more about that topic. There have been a couple of questions from people, what you're sharing in this diagram, different parts of the song, but there are a couple of people that just noted, that their experience as musicians or as songwriters, as trained musicians, is really, really limited. And, but they're singing, they might have ideas and lyrics and things like that. Do you have any recommendations for how to build the bridge from the idea that they have to actually the musical material that they have to create? Is it, online learning? Is it getting with a tutor? Is it co-writing with somebody? What are some ways that you would approach that?
I think it depends on what type of music you're doing, but one thing, I'm pretty much self-taught in almost everything I do in music. And one thing that really helped me when I was getting in a rut with guitar, writing with guitar, was writing on my DAW. So I wrote in, I started in GarageBand, I don't know, but I got Pro Tools. And then Logic was really fun to experiment. At the time I was listening to a lot of trip hop, and I got excited. Logic was fun. And then Ableton felt really empowering to me. And so what I started doing once I got to Ableton was writing beats. And then, at that point, I'm not saying you don't need to know how to play an instrument to write a song. It does really help. But what also helps is knowing your DAWs, like knowing how to produce and write in a DAW. It's another instrument. And it's once you know the basics, it feels really not intimidating. And then at the same time, when I get stuck in a songwriting rut, I'll pick up an instrument I don't know, and I really can only play a couple of things on it. Or I got really into thumb piano. I didn't get into it, I shouldn't say that. Someone lent me a thumb piano and I wrote a song based on this thumb piano thing.
Right.
That I was playing. Yeah, it was ridiculous. It's called Pixie, I think. Pixie. It was a long time ago. Yeah, it's based on this loop, this thumb piano loop. So yeah, I think exploring other instruments, taking a course. Yeah. I mean, I know I'm from Berkeley, so I'm a little biased, but I do really wish I went to Berkeley. Like if you have that skill set. And one of the things actually Sarah Brindell teaches at Berklee is keyboard play. I'm going to take it next semester. Keyboard players, keyboard techniques for songwriters. So it's not like you have to be this virtuoso player. I mean, you're probably going to be playing like 4 to 6 chords in any given pop song. So it's just, learning different techniques to use it. So I do think those courses are helpful, and private lessons if you want to get more good at a specific instrument, for sure.
Yeah. There's something I want to put in here that Ilaria also asked, which is about being self-taught. And I just want to say this so that, we all can take note of this. Self-taught is still learning. And so anything that you do to discover more information, Valerie, that you just shared, like picking up a new instrument, learning a new piece of software, just figuring it out on your own is growing your skill set. So go for it. You should absolutely try to discover as many different ways as possible to be creative. There's no one right way and there's no wrong ways. As long as you're trying to learn something, there's a chance that you're going to get better and build your skill and be able to create the things that you want to create. So I think that's just important for everybody to recognize.
Absolutely.
All right, Valerie, what's next? We've built our song.
Okay, I've built the song. So I just want to give an example of an arrangement that I think is pretty awesome. So we'll just listen to part of Stay. I think that you all probably know the song. And I want you to listen for what instruments are coming in when. So we already know there's 2 different singers on it, Kid Leroy and Justin Bieber. And let me tell you, like 10 years ago, I would have died if I knew I was telling a bunch of people to listen to Justin Bieber. But right now, I'm really into this song. So just listen for when the instruments are coming in and out, and what instruments they are, and how the sections are being differentiated. Also, listen for instrumental hooks. So this is one of the hookiest songs I know that's out right now. All right. Any thoughts about, I love this song. Me too. About the how the sections are differentiated and the build of the song. So how the song is being built production-wise. I'll start.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's a good idea.
Okay. So starts off with just a synth. Exactly. Yep. So the synth, that instrumental hook is like half the song. I mean, it's happening throughout the song, but it's one of the reasons why that song is so popular. That it's a super tight hook. The sound is excellent. There's actually a video somebody did on YouTube that's like how to create that exact synth sound with Logic stock instruments. Pretty amazing. So that instrumental hook starts the song starts out with the chorus, and then the verse happens, and it's just a kick drum, the instrumental hook, and the vocal. So the only thing that's you have at front, you have the vocal and the instrumental hook. The verse comes in, it's the kick added into the vocal and the instrumental hook, and then the pre-chorus and the vocal production on the production on his voice totally changes. It's a different reverb on it. It's a different production on different, what's called vocal chain on it, different effects in the pre-chorus. And then there's a break. Now those breaks, it's like one of the best ways to create tension is to have nothing. So remember, like less is more a lot of times. And then the chorus comes in, everybody's in, 2 different synths, the whole drums, drum set, the vocals, all that stuff. That's what we just heard. Terrible. Okay, so that's the song form, and I think that's all I got for this. Yeah, Q&A.
All right, let's open it up because there's lots of questions here about
Okay.
About different aspects of this. Let's see, I'm just scrolling back and looking over here.
And while you're looking, I'll just kind of just to say what I just said in the last 40 minutes is just I went over the why to produce, how to start a song when in terms of production, prosody, and arrangement. And then at this point, you can go record and have fun.
Yeah. Actually, while we have people here, does anybody want to, does anybody have a question for Valerie that would like to come on video and ask a question with her?
Oh, that's exciting.
Or if you have a song that you'd like to share and she can give you some feedback on your song. You can raise your little yellow Simpsons looking Zoom hand and we'll bring you in.
And you said there's a couple questions here too. Well,
yeah, I'm just looking to see. I think we got most of them.
okay.
Oh, here we go, Sandro. All right, so Sandro, we're going to bring you in. And all right. We're promoting you to a panelist.
Well, yeah.
If you want to stop sharing, Valerie,
sorry.
you can bring
Yeah.
Sandro in. No worries.
Hey,
Hey, how are you, Sandro? I'm gonna promote you here, and then you can turn on your video. There you are. Where's Sandro? Here you go. Sandro, do you have a question for us?
I wonder if he's on the Italian side.
Oh, there he is. Okay. And cool. All right. Sandro, you can turn on your video. Please go ahead. Sandro, are you there? Sandro, you're muted. Let's ask you to unmute. Hi, Sandro. All right, we're having some trouble. Let's see. Any other questions? There you are.
c'è l'audio?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes. Go ahead, sir. What's your question?
C'è? Okay. Hello?
Yes. Sandro, can you hear us?
Eccolo qua. Sì.
What's your question?
La canzone. Dove la prendo? Aspetta. Scusami perché non è così facile per me, perché io ho 60 anni, sono uno nato e cresciuto nella povertà e non riesco bene a poter gestire certe situazioni chiamate così online, come le chiamano questi bei ragazzi che sono molto preparati in questo. Io invece sono vecchietto, però io una canzone voglio cantare perché
No, you're not. 60 is not old.
no, sto mettendo una canzone perché io ti ripeto, non sono capace, però ci provo. Come posso fare? Mettere una canzone? Aiutami. Ah, forse qua. Aspetta. Allora. No,
And we're also looking at the chat. If you want to put your question in the chat as well, that's great. And what we'll do is we'll go on to the next person.
Forse ci sono riuscito. Forse, non è che sono così sicuro. aiutatemi voi perché, ecco, forse ci sono riuscito a fare qualcosa. Ecco, vediamo. Facciamo così. Vediamo un po' di musica. Aspetta. Oh, perché si sente?
Okay.
Guarda,
Do you have a
guarda.
question for us, Sandra?
Vedi com'è per me difficile poi, però sono entusiasta e vorrei cantare una canzone in diretta, ma perché non succede? Vabbè, ci provo. Aspetta,
No worries. So thank you, Sandra, for joining us, and we're gonna go on. Yeah,
Chiedo,
we're gonna go on to our next person.
chiedo scusa, ma
Here we go.
è incredibile, guarda, è incredibile. Oh,
Thank you, Sandra. All right, and let's see. Let's go to Giovanna. Giovanna's here. We're gonna bring you in, Giovanna. And here we go. All right, Giovanna, and you can unmute, please. Hi, Giovanna, how are you? Hi, Giovanna. Giovanna, did you have a question for us? All right.
It looks like there's five other question or five people have their
Yep.
hands raised. I
Yeah,
wonder.
it takes a minute to bring them in, Valerie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it takes a second to switch them over and for them to unmute. So Giovanna, if you have a question, you could type it in the chat and we'll go on to our next person. There we go. All right. Yeah, let's do that. Francesca, do you want to, can we bring you in? Okay, so here's Francesca's link. Let's bring this up and we're gonna play this and we'll Valerie, you can take a listen to this and we can do a little feedback. How's that sound?
Sure. Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Let me share. All right, so this is Known Physics by Reaper. Okay, here we go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you for sharing that.
Awesome. Rockin'. Just a couple pieces of feedback. I have no idea what kind of feedback you want on this, but what I hear, like when I first